guys, I'm back again and it is 2020. Firstly, I'd like to wish you all a very, very happy new year. Hoping that 2020 brings you everything you desire and hope for. Most important, health, good health, okay? A little bit of wealth, some peace, some harmony, you know, all that good stuff. So I'm here to do my top reads of 2019, and I have to say 2019 was a so-so kind of reading year because, as you know, it got cut in half mid-June when I broke my leg, and then I had to do surgery, wear a cast. Then I had to do physical therapy. I mean, I stopped. My last physical therapy visit was the 20th of December, something like that. So with that, I soldiered on and tried to read the maximum, get back into the swing of things. So I pledged to read 50 books on Goodreads, and in the end I wound up reading 59. So I feel like that's really good. I made up for it during the Christmas holidays since I was away and at my mother-in-law's, and there's no internet. That gave me a chance to finish off 5 or 6, I think 5 books during the week, so that was really good. This year, if you want to know what I have plans for my 2020, I urge you to go over to my blog, browngirlreading.com. I will link below the link to that blog post where I talk about my goals for this year. So let's get started on the books because there's a lot of them. This year, I think I have 15 books that have 5 stars. Yeah, it's a first for everything. Usually it's between like 7 and 10, and I don't know, last year I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm giving everything 5 stars. So I have my trusty book journal from last year. Okay, the first book on the list is Love in Vain by Robert Johnson, 1911 to 1938, by Mezzo and Dupont. Okay, so this is one of the books that I read at the beginning of 2019. And it is a graphic novel, and it follows the life of this blues musician, Robert Johnson, and it is freaking fantastic. I don't have anything else to say. I did a video for this one, a review video, so I will link it below. It's just a beautiful graphic novel. It's just beautiful the way it's drawn. The story is just told really, really well. 5 stars. Okay, next on my list I have Infidel, My Life by Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Okay, this one right here took me by surprise. As you know, I did a review on this one, so I will link it below as well. I won't talk too long about it, but this one, if you have not read this book, I strongly urge you to read it. It is very, very good. Very well written, and it enlightened me on some other aspects of Islam, but through another country. This is through Somalia, and this book is so good. Yeah. It's a little bit of a long one, but it's worth the read. Check it out. Next on my list, I have Dear Ancestors. I'll link it here. Now, Dear Ancestors is the story of the Middle Passage, and it's told in verse, and it is freaking fantastic as well. You can catch CP Patrick. She is over on Bookstagram. I'll link below her Instagram. She's a really wonderful writer. At the moment, she's writing children's books. She's writing historical books to teach children about American history. But if you like stories told in verse, I recommend that you check out Dear Ancestors. So I think I wrote a review of it on my blog. I will link that below as well. Next on my list, I have Blanche Among the Talented 10th. Now, this series, I love this series. This is book 2 of the series, so I won't go too much in depth, but there are 4 books in this series, and this is book 2, and I hope to finish up book 3 and 4 this year, but I kind of don't want to finish it up because I really like Blanche as a character. But this second one, I think the first one I gave it 4 stars, but this second one, oh, fire. The commentary on society, the commentary on colorism, the commentary on being a parent to children that are not biologically yours. It's phenomenal. All of this around a mystery, solving a mystery. It's fantastic. I highly recommend this series, the Blanche on the Lamb series. If you haven't started that one, get it. It's so good. Next on my list, I have Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. This one I read for my book club last year, and we all love this book. There's just something about the way the story's told, the way the character develops, and you really see the development of the character, and I think that is phenomenal when you see it in the book, because we don't see that done so well, this idea of the development of a character, and you fall in love with her even though she is a bit cranky, she complains, she's complicated, she's difficult, she got issues, but we really love Eleanor. This is another one. I think they're making a movie of this, but you know what? I would not particularly want to go see it because I like the book so much. In my mind, I had no problems imagining Eleanor, so I really don't need to see the movie because I know they're going to ruin it for me. So if you haven't picked this one up, definitely pick this one up because this is a read that you will read through fairly quickly and you will enjoy it. I promise you will enjoy it. Next on the list is... Okay, now I don't have anything to say about this one. It has been all over the place since it came out last year. Becoming fantastic. I'm not going to say anything more about it. Michelle Obama, she's fab. It's a great place to learn about how she's become the woman that she is today. A great book. Wonderful writing, and it just engrosses you, and I don't have anything else to say. It's good. Next on my list I have On the Come Up. Okay, On the Come Up is Angie Thomas's second book. You remember her first book was this other YA novel called, I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, this is her second novel. And let me tell you, this one is so much better. And I like the first one a lot. The first one I gave it 5 stars as well. But this one right here, this is the storyline is much more complex. The characters are much more fleshed out, and the themes are much more real. She really did something on the come up. Really improved on things. It's phenomenal. I mean, I can't wait to see what she comes out with next, because this one right here, this one is really good. Now this one I talked about quite a lot already, so I'm gonna keep it short. A House for Mr. Biswas by V.S. Naipaul. This book right here, so good. Now, I would recommend this for someone who is, 1, curious about good writing from V.S. Naipaul. 2, wants a different type of novel that is set in the Caribbean. And 3, wants to read literary fiction. This is one of those books that it's not a fast read at all. I buddy read this with Karen over at Karen from Karen Run Right Reads. We both thoroughly enjoyed this book, but it did engross us a lot, and it did take us quite a bit of time to get through it. But that being said, it's worth it. Now, I haven't read anything else by V.S. Naipaul. I know V.S. Naipaul was a horrible person, but this book right here is the business. That's all I gotta say. Read the book if you're that curious and you fall into those 3 categories that I just said. Next on my list, I have Heaven My Home, which is the second novel in the Highway 59 series by Attica Locke. Now, this one right here was very good as well. Attica Locke, if you don't know, she's a wonderful mystery writer because she does the mystery story, I call it with a little literary fiction turn, a little bit. And she makes it so that it's not like the typical type of mystery told in the, in a very typical manner. This one is, you've got this main character. His name is Darren Matthews, who is a Black Texas Ranger. And he is sent to this small town to investigate a missing boy. This boy has taken the family boat out on the river and he hasn't been seen since. So at the same time, because in book 1, Darren is trying to find some evidence against this white supremacist group that he has been investigating. Now, that kind of continues on into this book because they purposely send Darren down into this area because there is a heavy concentration of this particular white supremacist group there. So they figure, well, while you're researching, trying to find this missing boy, you keep your ear to the ground and try to investigate to get evidence on this white supremacist group. That's all I'm going to tell you. But let me tell you, this right here gets very complicated and it's very good. It's an excellent read. I highly recommend you get on to this particular series. Now, I just hope to God Attica Locke is going to come out with the 3rd novel sometime soon because it's going to kill me not to know what's going to happen next. Okay, next book on my list is The Word. Black writers talk about the transformative power of reading and writing, and this is by, well, it was edited by Marita Golden. Now, this is a book where Marita Golden, basically what she does is she interviews various different authors. So you're going to have people like Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Pearl Cleage, J. California Cooper, Edwige Dontica, Nikki Giovanni, etc., etc. So I think it's about 13 writers, and it's basically an interview, okay, between these. And you learn a lot about these authors, like how they started reading, how that passion started, how they keep it going. You learn about their writing. It's very, very interesting. It's a very short book, but worth the read. I gave this one 5 stars because I had not heard of this book before, but one of my friends, her name is Rosa, she told me about this book. She said, oh, you haven't read The Word? And I'm like, well, The Word? I've never heard of The Word. Get this book. It's very, very interesting to read about some of these writers, especially if you want to read more African American writers and you don't know of a lot of them and you want to get interested in them. This would be a good book to pick up because you're going to learn a lot about the writers, and that might then encourage you to go and read these writers. So yeah, definitely this one was very good. Next on the list, I have Born on a Tuesday by L. Nathan John. This is the 2nd reading of this book that I've done. I read this book when it came out. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and loved it. Gave it 5 stars. Read it again last year. Loved it. Again, gave it 5 stars. So I reread this book so that I could participate in an event in Paris where L. Nathan John was the star, and he was at this event. So I got a chance to meet him, and he so graciously signed my book. And I basically facilitated a bit of translation, French to English, English to French, during this event. So this allowed me to get more into this book. This book really basically talks about the development of Islamic fundamentalism in a small town in northern Nigeria. And you see this development through the eyes of Dantala. So we see him as a young boy, and we see him develop and, you know, become a man. So this is a very interesting coming of age because you really do see and feel the change of the character, which is fucking refreshing. Not to mention that you get all of the aspects of the Islamic religion and how it's practiced in northern Nigeria. And it's very interesting the way he uses the English language. This book right here, everybody should have at least picked this up by now. But I know how people are about reading about certain issues and things and not really up to it. But this one is a book that should be read. He won Le Prix Les Afriques last year, 2019. And let me tell you, he's a fantastic writer. We are going to be seeing more really good books from him. But Born on a Tuesday is something that you should definitely read. Okay, next on my list. Now this gem right here, this was the read along that I spearheaded in October and November. So big chunker, 1,276 pages. This is the Penguin Clothbound edition. We read it over October and November, and oh my God. This book was so thrilling to read. I had no idea it was going to be like that. I've always wanted to read this book, but was never really sure if I would like it very much. You know, classics for me sometimes are hit and miss. So I said, why not? You know, we were talking about it on my Bookstagram live one night, and I said, okay, well then let's just do it as a read along. And so plan the read along. I didn't realize so many people would join in. A lot of people joined in. If you're watching this, thank you for joining in. Thank you if you're coming over to Goodreads and giving your opinion on things. Really, this had everything, okay? It had suspense, it had great writing, it had travel, it had pacing, it had everything. And it ends really well. So you can't fault this one. If you haven't read The Count of Monte Cristo, and I'm sure I will read this one at some point. It was just that good. So I would like to read something else by him. I'm not sure exactly what yet, but yeah. If you haven't read that, Monte Cristo, get on it. It's so good. Next on my list, I read The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. Now, whew. Colson Whitehead is, in my opinion, he's a very interesting writer. The way he goes about telling the story, you can tell that he has taken time to figure out how he's going to recount something, especially as difficult as this particular story is to recount. It's a story about two young black boys who wind up in a reform school, which is nothing more than a vulgar torture chamber. And you follow these two boys through their, terrible endeavor of surviving this school. Colson Whitehead writes unapologetically male, and you know what? I appreciate it. I feel like when I read his writing, it gives me another aspect of writing that I've had difficulty with in the past of accepting, is this male voice. Because I feel like I have gotten very used to reading a female voice. And that for me is slightly problematic, because I should be able to accept all types, of voices. And for some reason that male voice usually takes some time for me to get around it. But for some reason the Colson Whitehead, he manages to make it happen for me. I highly recommend this one. I felt it was a very strong novel, writing about a very difficult topic, but a topic that should be discussed, because it is based off of a true story. Having read this one, it's interesting because right before I read this one, 2 books before, I had read Before We Were Yours. And that one has the aspect of an orphanage where they do terrible shit to the kids and stuff. So when I was reading this one, it just seemed like it was layered on top, and I was just down in the dumps after, you know, reading those two. But I highly recommend this one. The next book I have on my list is Jacqueline Woodson's Red at the Bone. This book is so beautiful. The way it is written is so beautiful. The story turns around an illegitimate baby being born into a family, and from that birth we embark on the different perspectives of the members of the family. So the young woman who's having the baby, the father of the baby, the mother, her mother and father. It's very good. And what she does best is the voices. They really do change. The voices really do change for each person. So you can tell who is who. And not only that, but the messages that each family member has is just so poignant, and it's so perfect, and it's so short. That she can do that in so few pages, I'm mesmerized. So good. Such a good story. And last but not least, I have In West Mills by Deshaun Charles Winslow. This one right here, I was pretty excited to get to it. I had hesitated whether I would even pick this book up. But I think it was over summer. I decided to order it. And then when it came and then it sat around, and I didn't get a chance to read it until almost at the end of the year. And I am so happy I got to read this book, because I didn't really know what it was about, and I avoided every review so that I wouldn't know what the book was about. But the main character of the book is Azalea. Wait, what's her first name? Her last name is Azalea Center, and her alias is Not. And that character is one hell of a woman. I mean, she is a smart ass. I'm gonna do what I like, and I don't care who don't like it, you know. But this is a good story about family, friendship, freedom, independence, how independence can affect the people around you, the people that are your friends, that are your family, people in your, you know, that live in the vicinity of you, especially if it's a small town, how they react to you. It's just so good. And the fact that he does it in such a small span, you know, of pages, is a very short book. But another thing is, he writes very well as a black woman. The voice of the black woman felt real, felt like a woman. And props up to him for doing such a great job with that. I'm very anxious to see what Winslow puts out next, because this one is really good. So, those are my 15 top books of 2019. I hope that you all had a good 2019 in your reading, and that you had just as many good books as I did, if not more. So I'll be back real soon with a review. There may be a review, reviews coming up on my blog. I'll let you know through Instagram. I strongly urge you to follow me over Instagram, because a lot of things happen over there as well. So that's all I have for you today. Happy reading, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.